going on, everybody? Hair's kind of all over the place. Sometimes you gotta test this thing out and see what it looks like. You can't really see it at first. I promise we're gonna have somebody told me the other day. They called me yesterday and said the background is pretty bland. I totally get that. I'm in the process of getting my office fixed, so we'll get there. I gotta fix my hair. I look stupid enough. I don't want it to look too terribly stupid. All right, guys. Well, welcome in. We have another week of Talking Dogs coming up, and tons to talk about this week. Last week we were kind of in flux with a coaching search. We didn't really know where things were going. I mentioned on Talking Dogs that I felt like this might be trending towards somebody that we weren't talking about as much. And I know we did discuss Jeff Lebby early on in the process, but he wasn't a totally popular name at that point last week. It was mostly head coaches. It was Willie Fritz. It was Barry Odom, John Summerall. I think we were talking Jamie Chadwell a little bit. It just felt like those names were not going to be a good fit outside of Jamie Chadwell for Mississippi State's job. But a couple days later, we get word that Jeff Lebby interviewed for the job for Mississippi State's head coaching position. And by Saturday, at least according to Zach Selman, he knew that he was the guy. So that moved fairly quickly over the course of the next couple of days after that. And we were getting word on Thursday at the Egg Bowl. It was really loud that Jeff Lebby was going to be the guy. And that was the day after he had met with Mississippi State. So they kind of had zeroed in on him, I think, after a few guys had kind of dropped off the board. And I mean, if you talk to Zach Selman, he's going to say that Jeff Lebby was number one on the list. And he was the guy that got the offer. If you talk to people that know how this business works, you do not get an offer until you know somebody's going to accept it most of the time. It's, that's just how it goes. But I think that a few guys that Mississippi State might have had, above Jeff Lebby, had decided to stay at their current school. One of those being Jamie Chadwell. I believe that Mississippi State reached out to him. I believe he listened a little bit, but at the end of the day, he decided to stay at Liberty for another year. And, I don't think that's a terrible move by him. He's going to make good money. He has a chance to wait for a couple of other big jobs to open up, and he decided to stay there. But here's what I'll say about this hire. While he might not have been number one on Zach Selman's list, it feels like Jeff Lebby on paper is the right guy for the job right now. At least out of the pool of candidates that we saw last week. There's several other guys that could have been better coaches, better hires for Mississippi State. As a high-powering offense that is, by all accounts, from Oklahoma people, a guy that was an integral part of what they were doing in the NIL circuit on the transfer portal. And sorry, for whatever reason, it froze up there. I don't know what's going on. I think he's a really good fit for Mississippi State. And as we've seen the last 2 days, you've seen a lot of momentum for the Bulldogs, which happens all the time whenever you make a new coaching hire. Anytime you bring in a coach, it seems like people get more excited. You get a boost. You get some more money given to the school. You get recruiting momentum. For Mississippi State, they're getting a lot of momentum in NIL sector. They're getting season ticket sales already. So right now, everything is good for Jeff Lebby and Mississippi State. We'll see how it goes over the course of a year's time. But for now, it looks like, it really looks good. And I think in the coming days, you're going to see some staff additions for Jeff Lebby. And he's got some good names out there, good possibilities for his offensive coaches and defensive coaches. So, I'm sure we'll talk about a lot of those here in the next several minutes while we're on this chat here. I'm going to try to get you guys out of here before 6 o'clock so you can watch the basketball game because I want to watch it too. Mississippi State's at Georgia Tech tonight in men's basketball, trying to stay undefeated and go 7-0, I think, on the year. So I'll try to get you guys out of here before that. So with that in mind, as we're around 5:10 right now, we'll go ahead and start getting into questions and comments because I know we got several coming in. We'll start with 44 MSU. Thoughts on DJ Durkin? I like Durkin. I think he's a good coach, especially on the what he's done as a defensive coordinator. He's got the baggage a lot like Jeff Lebby, and he's kind of trying to distance himself from what happened with him at Maryland when he was the head coach there in a situation where a young man had passed away on the team while I think he was doing workouts or something, and I don't have the all of that with me right now, but Durkin was involved with that. Obviously, it happened under his watch. And, he's had to kind of rehab his image since that. And he's been a defensive coordinator, I think at Florida, maybe. And what's his resume? Let me pull it up. Of course, he was at Ole Miss a couple years ago. He's been at Texas A&M, done a really good job at A&M. He was at Florida from 2010 to 2014, so he was on some of those Urban Meyer teams. And even was the interim head coach in 2014. Then he went to Michigan, defensive coordinator. Then he became the head coach at Maryland from 16 to 18. Went to the Atlanta Falcons, worked as an off-the-field guy there for Atlanta. And then Ole Miss was able to get him with Lane Kiffin. That was his first big job after all that stuff happened with Maryland. And the defenses there weren't great, but I thought, especially in 2021, they really improved as the year went on. If you remember them in that Egg Bowl in 2021, the defense was really good. And late in that season, they were really good. That they made that team a contender because of what they were able to do defensively. The offense was what it was with Matt Corral and company, and it's one of the most high-powering offenses in the league with Jeff Lebby as the OC. But defensively, as the year went on, they became a better group. And I think that's a sign of good coaching. That means that you're correcting your mistakes, you're taking areas that you're struggling with, and you're getting better at them. And that's what he did. And he parlayed that into the Texas A&M job, where obviously he has much more talent on the defensive side of the ball there at Texas A&M than he had at Ole Miss. And his defenses have been solid at A&M. One of the best defenses in the league this year. Now, when you got guys like that, I mean, you got dudes everywhere. It's a lot easier to make up ground in certain situations. But he's done a good job there, and I think he would be a great hire. We just don't know what Mike Elko is going to do at Texas A&M. Mike Elko could retain him, I guess. I don't know. I haven't seen anything concrete on that, but that's a guy that, if he is Jeff Lebby's hire, you've hired a very experienced head coach that has coached at 3 schools inside this league as a defensive coordinator. He was defensive coordinator at Florida. He was defensive coordinator at Ole Miss, and he was defensive coordinator at Texas A&M, and has been a defensive coordinator now for going on, almost 10 years. So that's one of the things that kind of caught my attention whenever Jeff Lebby was talking about. I asked him last night about his defensive staff because we know what he's going to do on the offensive side of the ball. We know they're going to be good. We know he's probably going to get some good coaches there on that side of the ball. We don't really know what his philosophy is defensively. We don't know what all of his connections are on the defensive side. But one thing he said was he wanted to have guys that have experience in this league, that have won in this league defensively. And that's not just the coordinator, that's position coaches as well. So, that can be a multitude of people. So that's something to look out for. But as far as DJ Durkin is concerned, and his candidacy, I think that would be a really good hire for the Bulldogs for year one, for Jeff Lebby to have an experienced voice on that side of the ball that is probably going to have some solid talent year in and year out at Mississippi State. That's just how it is in Starkville. You pull some really good players from the state. You have a nice culture of excellence there on the defensive side of the ball, and then you have all those players that you put in the league that are doing big-time things as well. Landon T. didn't get a chance to say hey last night, but if I did, I would have asked an important question, Orton or Punk? That's a wrestling question for you guys that might possibly be triggered. I'm sorry. I've always been a big CM Punk fan. I'm kind of gotten tired of all the shenanigans. I've never liked Orton all that much, but right now I kind of like Orton more than I do Punk. But I mean, he attracts viewers, he attracts attention. So I'm all for the drama and if it can turn into some good angles, I'm all for it. Richard Neal, will any of the old staff be retained? That's kind of been the question, a big question the last couple of days, is who's going to be coming back for that team. And, that's something that remains to be seen, because I think that there's a couple of guys that make sense. Chad Bumpus, obviously. And then you got... David Turner's a possibility. You don't know what they're going to be doing on the defensive line. Greg Knox, I think, is a slam dunk guy that you bring back. At the very least, allow him to be in the same position he was in. You can have as many analysts as you want to. He wants to be here. His family loves it here. So, you really should keep him around, I think, in some capacity. But Chad Bumpus is one of the obvious guys. He's going to be meeting with those coaches. I think he met with some of them today. Probably going to meet with some more tomorrow to kind of talk that through and see who makes sense to return. But I don't expect a whole lot of retention with this staff. Sam Sharma, how worried are you about a Joe Moorhead 2.0 scenario? I mean, this is said a lot, and I totally get it. He's an offensive coordinator that's brought in, was a big name, whatever. But why can't we say that it could be a Dan Mullen situation? I mean, I don't understand why it's got to be just the Moorhead thing, because Dan Mullen was a coordinator and never been a head coach. Jim Moorhead, obviously, same position, but I think it's going to be either or, and that's a coach that's really successful or one that's not. And that's what you're doing. You're flipping a coin here with an offensive coordinator that's never been a head coach. And I've seen comparisons to Zach Arnett. Well, they coach different sides of the ball. I think Lebby is more prepared for this than Zach Arnett as well. So, yeah, he could be a Joe Moorhead. He also could be a Dan Mullen. Or he could be a Kirby Smart. I mean, we don't know. That's the risk that you take when you hire a coordinator in this position. But I will say he seems like a guy, and, in fairness, we had some of the same thoughts of Moorhead, but he seems like a guy that is well prepared for this position and prepared to be, to kind of take Mississippi State to the next level. And I think, one thing that really kind of gives me peace with it is the fact that he understands the NIL space tremendously and understands what to do there. He understands the transfer portal and how important it is. It's just a wait and see. I think the offense is going to be really good because it's been good everywhere he's been. The big question is, how does he handle the day-to-day operations? How does he handle in-game situations when he's calling plays? Because it's much different to be, a head coach that understands the situation, that is paying attention to the situation and makes those calls, and then the offensive coordinator who's focused solely on calling the next play. And a lot of guys have struggled with getting a play in the right situation, things like that. How is he going to handle those situations is kind of the biggest question mark for me. And he is going to be calling plays for Mississippi State. So, he's going to have to adjust how he handles those things. And he's going to have a lot of people around him to help him out too. And hopefully it's just not a situation like we've been seeing for Mississippi State where they just don't really know what's going on and what to do in those certain situations. But definitely a coin flip. We'll wait and see. Rodney Rhodes over-under for State's win total in the regular season next year. -6.5. That's a good question. I don't want to dig deep into that until I know what the roster looks like. And then I'll really be able to give you my thoughts. Because we have no idea who the quarterback's going to be. We don't know what they're going to do on defense. So it's hard to know. I mean, on the surface right now, assuming that they get a good quarterback, which I think is a pretty good assumption, they should be able to attract some talent there. Assuming they do that, they're going to beat Eastern Kentucky. They should should beat Arizona State, but who knows? I'll count that as a win. And then Toledo and UMass. That's 4-0 to start the season. Or I can't remember. One of those games is not in the front half, is it, Rodney? I'm just looking at your how you placed them out, but they should have 4 wins there with non-conference. They're going to lose to Georgia. Probably going to lose at Texas, I would say. Arkansas, they got a good shot there. I'll say win on that. Mizzou's going to be tough. I'll say loss as it stands. I'm going to say that they're going to – I'm going to say under right now. I would say 6 wins, 5 or 6 wins. But we'll see what they do in the portal. I mean, that can change significantly pretty quickly. Richard, do you think Chris Parsons sticking around? Yes. I have no I don't think that's I don't have no indication that he won't. I think he's going to stick around. How about that? What's the beef between Kiffin and Lebby? I think there were a lot of things reported from the Ole Miss side of things about that situation. One of them was that, he would handle a lot of the preparations for ball games. And, Lane Kiffin, especially during COVID, Lane Kiffin would be gone out of a pocket or something, and Lebby was in charge of a lot of those preparations, and he didn't get a lot of credit for it. And I think he got upset about it. That's something that's been reported on the Ole Miss side of things. And then also the situation with Randy Clements being fired, a good friend of Jeff Lebby's, and that didn't sit well with him. He decided to, after he had signed a contract, I think he had signed a contract with Ole Miss, an extension, had decided, to go to Oklahoma, and he was ready to get out of there. So they did not leave on good terms. I don't know where they stand right now. Some people around those two have said they're still friends. So I don't know. I don't know about them personally, but it was a tough ending with how, all that finished up with Randy Clements, and then, Lebby was really involved in preparing the team and apparently didn't get all the recognition that he thought he deserved. That's according to Ole Miss people. I don't know. I don't know all the inner workings there in Oxford. Heath asks if he left because Kiffin wouldn't let him call plays. I don't know about that. I don't know what the situation was in their play calling. I know that he was that he did call plays at times, but I don't know how that was pushed around by either one. Jackson, Jeff Collins would be on brand with the resurgence of swag. Yeah, they could bring back the swag chalice. I enjoyed Jeff Collins. He was fun. Chuck707, is Lebby a good recruiter? Yes, all indications are he can recruit, does a good job recruiting-wise. And, I think he's going to do a good job attacking the portal. Like I said earlier, he does a great job understanding how NIL works. And Mississippi State presented their plan with him with the Bulldog Initiative. And I think from everything I heard, he was really excited about that. Was sporting a Bulldog Initiative quarter zip when he came up also on Sunday night. So he's all in on that, and that's good. You need a coach that really understands that and pushes it too. Random Yoda, has Lebby mentioned a defensive scheme yet? Not yet, but I have a feeling they're probably going to go away from the 3-man front. We'll probably see more 4-down front with whoever the defensive coordinator is. I could be wrong on that, but I think that's probably what's going to happen. Howard, can Bump stay given the way the receivers looked? I know he's our guy, but we couldn't even get lined up this year. I think it's too early to know. The offense as a whole was such a mess. That is his position group. I get it, and they could have played better, but there's so many things that go into that. The scheme was bad, and they were transitioning out of the air raid. There was a lot of frustrations with the team, and I don't think guys were truly had their head in the game a lot of times. So I get what you're saying, and I understand people's concern there, but I think it's too early to know on Bump. He did a good job at Utah, so I think he deserves a little bit more of a shot to see, but we'll see if Levy wants to utilize him or not. It'd be good for recruiting, I know that. Richard, our strength and conditioning seemed to lack this season. I hope Levy makes good hires in that department. They were okay. It's hard to really know. But yeah, we'll see what he does there. I don't know if he'll keep the same staff on hand. I appreciate that, John. Thanks for stopping in. It's cold up down here in Mississippi too. Probably not as cold as West Virginia. Richard, do you see a sense of strong buy-in from the current roster? A few of the guys that I've seen have been really excited. It's tough to know until they get in there and get in a rhythm and start to really dive into the offense and defense, all that stuff. But yeah, I think so far everybody seems to be pretty excited. Matthew Anthony is tight end incorporated in the system. Yes, it is. Tight end's very important in this system. They use a tight end for blocking, obviously. A lot of tight ends used like as an up back. They'll spread them out. They'll use them down the field. So yeah, the tight end, very important. They've used them a lot under Levy, whether it be with Josh Heupel or Lane Kiffin or over at Oklahoma. Tom T, Moorhead, and Mullen never had a top 5 offense anywhere. That's the difference between them and Coach Levy. I don't remember Moorhead's numbers, but yeah, consistently he wasn't as good as Jeff Levy has been, and Mullen wasn't either. Mullen, had top 25 offenses, but this offense has been good everywhere. And some people have talked about, well, he had Heupel was running the offense at UCF, and then Kiffin was running it. Well, at Oklahoma, there was nobody above him at Oklahoma running the offense. Brent Venables is a defensive guy. So that was purely his offense, and it looked the same as the last 2 stops. So I think the one common theme is everywhere he's been, the offenses he's been a part of have been top 5, top 10 every single time, whether it be in the NAIA space or the other 3 spots. He's been good every single place he's been. Any actual smoke about Dylan Gabriel from Landon? Not yet. We haven't had anything official on that. I think he took part in senior day at Oklahoma. We've learned that doesn't mean a ton. Guys have returned back from that. So I don't know what that means. I think they're going to wait it out with him. But I haven't heard anything 100% on whether or not he's going to transfer, where that's going to be. He could potentially go to the NFL too. You have to remember that. But if he's in the portal, I would put high odds on it being Mississippi State where he ends up. But we just don't know yet exactly what's going to happen with him. Charles Kilgore, can we not just get Arnett back? No. He's gone. Landon, after the word of Cam Ward's NIL being worth $1 million, does State have that cash to pay a quarterback like that? I question that, how somebody would even know that. Several schools had offered him that or whatever. That's a pretty high number. But, yeah, State does have that kind of money. I don't know if that's what they're willing to spend or not, but, Mississippi State's not poor. Robert, Arkansas just hired Bobby Petrino. Yeah, that was really insane. I don't know how that's... Actually, I feel like I know how that's going to end. It's going to be probably a train wreck or a motorcycle wreck. MSU Dog, are you in charge of this or am I in charge? Please stop answering all these questions. Can we hire Pete Golding? Probably not. Matthew, stadium upgrades this offseason or year away? They're going to have some this offseason for sure. I I think that there's a good shot that we see. I know there's going to be LED lights probably coming your way, speaker system. Those are two of the big things that they want to do for sure. And then there's a West Side, the IHL board approved a West Side upgrade, I believe is what it was called. Somebody said it was 220 million or something like that. I don't know what all that entails, but on the west side where the press box is, we're expecting them eventually, and I think maybe this year, but we haven't gotten anything confirmed on that, to gut out that press box and make that a club level for people in that area. And I think that's in the 200. Y'all can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but that's going to be a club level now, very similar to what you see on the east side. And I don't know what's going to happen with the press box, but I do know that John Cohen wanted the press box to be moved to the M Club. Zach Silman scratched that. He didn't like that, and he's got other ideas. I'm not sure what that is, but we'll get an update on that as soon as we possibly can. And I've heard we could have all that coming in first of the year, as far as updates on kind of their master plan and stuff like that. Big Mix, anything new on the possibility of getting Stonka back in the fold? Still wait and see on him. This is kind of a different situation. It's not as easy, I don't think, as just, they got a new offensive coach and everything's going to be good. He's going to jump on board. I think he is interested in looking around, getting out of state even, possibly. It's going to take probably a nice NIL deal to get him to come. But with Jeff Lebby, I think that helps. You have the friendship that he has with J.J. Harrell that is big. You have the relationship with Chad Bumpus that is big. So all those things are important for Mississippi State. They have that in their corner, and the fact that he's has a chance to stay closer to home and be closer to his family, that's a good thing. But he also might want to get away from his family, and he might want to go try something else. So, it's always got to be tough with these Starkville guys. It's not so easy as these guys wanting to be a part of Mississippi State. A lot of these guys don't want people to think that they're automatically going to go to Mississippi State. It's a weird relationship that Starkville and Mississippi State has with each other, but that's how it's been for forever, as long as I can remember. It's not as easy as just staying home and playing for your home team and all that stuff. A lot of these guys want to go somewhere else. And so it's tough. It's tough to get those guys on board a lot of times. That's why I was kind of surprised that he committed as early as he did. But I can promise you they're going to work extra hard to try to get him back on board. Donovan Payne, if Dylan Gabriel transferred to state, will Chris Parsons stay? I don't know how he feels about a transfer, but a transfer that's a grad transfer, it's more likely that he would stay than if they went and got a guy that's got 3 years left, because he knows that he could have another year. He redshirted this season, so he's just going to be a redshirt freshman. He can come in as a sophomore and basically start after having 2 years under his belt. So it won't be as hard to keep him if you get a guy that's a graduate transfer than it would be if you pull in a guy that's got 3 or 4 years left. Random Yoda, what's the deal with the Manning connection? I saw people saying Arch wanted to transfer. That was fake. That was a fake tweet. It was made by Ole Miss fans. MSU Dog 9 is answering every single question in these mentions. I don't understand that. Here's an actual question from MSU Dog 9. DeMarco Murray update from Oklahoma. Nothing new. The Oklahoma side is right now thinking that he could stay there. Yesterday they were kind of conflicted on that. Didn't know if he was going to stick around or not. And Jeff Lebby has presented an opportunity to be offensive coordinator at Mississippi State. That's a change in title. It's a step up for him. But Oklahoma's going to pay him pretty well, I think, or at least offer him a good raise there. That's his alma mater. He loves that place. So it's going to be tough to pull him, even offering him an offensive coordinator tag, but they're attempting it. John Kelsey, tacos or quesadillas? That's a great question. I like quesadillas. I like the crispy quesadillas whenever you get a nice little, not quite a char, but you get it nice and crispy. Got some good melted cheese in there, some good fajita style chicken. I love that. But it depends on the tacos too. Depends on what is in the taco and what the shell is. I do like the hard shells, but those are kind of like for children, I think. The tacos that have like two brothers, like smoked meats in them, are my favorite. If I can get a taco that's got, pork belly, which I get over at Two Brothers, that is absolute fire. Things like that, I love those. I love the Mexican style tacos. I'm going to take quesadillas over those tacos. But I do enjoy it. I'm not going to turn them down. I'll eat them. I like a good taco bar too. Donovan Payne, will we ever bowl in the rest of the Davis Wade Stadium? That's what we're kind of waiting to see what the master plan is from Zach Selman. We just don't know yet. He had kind of reached out to some people for some designs and some ideas and things like that. They were putting together that plan, and we're just waiting on that. We don't know yet, and I think it's probably going to come soon. Like, as far as the plan, I think it's probably going to come fairly soon. They have a lot of ideas about moving Mississippi State forward and kind of building on this momentum that they have. So, eventually I think that would be a good idea to bowl things in and kind of enclose the stadium a little bit. He's mentioned before doing something that connects the junction with the stadium, which I don't really know what that would be, but that's been one of his ideas. Heath Johnson, is this a potential top 10 basketball team? I definitely think they have that potential. They can, if they can get through this non-conference schedule, somehow be undefeated and get Tolu Smith back, I mean, sky's the limit for this team, no doubt. And I think they have a chance to build some momentum here in this non-conference portion of the schedule, just like they did last year. Matthew Anthony enjoying the marketing with State. Yes, they are going all in right now. I love it. They're doing a great job. They're proving that you can actually do things at Mississippi State that are exciting and against the grain and different than what you've usually done. And last night was really cool. Cohen Hurst, will State cover the spread tonight? I think so. 8.5 is what it is. I think so. Georgia Tech is not very good. What's their record right now? Yeah, I haven't been super impressed with what I've seen from Georgia Tech. It is on the road. 2-2 on the year is the Yellow Jackets. And, it's tough to go on the road and win, but the way State plays defense, I think, is going to be big for them. They beat Georgia Southern 84-62, Howard by 3. Oof. And then lost to UMass Loyal. That's right. Forgot. Hey, Dad mentioned that yesterday. It's not a great team. State should win this game. You mentioned Kamari Taylor on the podcast. How big of a priority is he for the new staff? I think he'll be a big priority. I haven't heard yet if they've spoken to him or not. I think he'll stick around if they want him for sure. But he's a great fit for this offense. I don't know why they wouldn't want him. He can make every throw in the football field. Big, physical guy. Can get out and run a little bit too. So, yeah, I think he's going to be a big priority. Howard, coach, looked really comfortable with everything last night. The introduction stuff didn't seem to be too big for him. Did you get that feeling in the post intro presser? Yeah, I did. I thought he was definitely comfortable. I thought he was a guy that looked like he was built for it. I mean, I think he's been prepared for this moment. He's been around so many good head coaches. At this point, he should be prepared. So I didn't think anything really bothered him. Random Yoda, why are Ole Miss fans saying we're trying to be them? We were clearly trying to be Oklahoma. That's a really good point that they're ignoring is Mississippi State's taking way more things from Oklahoma than they are from Ole Miss. They got the AD who came from Oklahoma, Joey Bailey, who's putting a lot of the production stuff together from Oklahoma. Just took the offensive coordinator. So, yeah, Ole Miss fans are going to tell you that Mississippi State's copying everything that they do, even though it's been done before somewhere else. So that's just how that's going to go. I've had a couple of them in here already. Tom T, is Josh Flowers a dual threat quarterback? Yes. Yes, he is. Jackson, thoughts on the MHSAA state championship game matchups? I think it's going to be great. I don't know how I feel about the 3-day thing, but it's going to be fun. Thinking about some of those matchups. 3A, I think, is going to be the best game of the entire playoffs. That's Knoxville County and Winona. If you remember last year, Knoxville County played Raleigh. And Raleigh had Suntarine Perkins, who probably going to be an All-American, a freshman All-American at Ole Miss this year. And without him, that game would have been a blowout for Knoxville County. They were in that ball game. They had a chance, but that guy was just unbelievable. That was the best game of the state championships last year, and that was in Class 3A. I think that's going to be the same thing this year. I think Winona's got a high-powering offense, really exciting offense. Knoxville can score some points. Knoxville's going to be really tough. I actually think Knoxville County can win that game coming out of the South, which is strange they're in the South, but I actually think they can win that game. I'm excited to watch that one. That's probably going to be my most anticipated game. And then I don't really know much about 1 or 2A. 4A, I've been covering Louisville this year. The last few years, actually, I cover them for the Winston County paper. I've seen them in a game once this year against Starkville. And that team might be the best team that Tyrone Shorter has had at Louisville since he's been there since 19. He's going for his third state championship, and he's had some good players. They don't have a Ty Cooper or a Gabe Moore on that team, but the whole team is just solid. I mean, offensively, defensively, their special teams, they just bring it every single week. They're going to be really difficult to beat. But Columbia's undefeated too. That's a matchup between two undefeated teams. So that's going to be a fun one to watch. 5A, you got West Point versus Laurel. West Point has a chance to win its 12th state championship. Louisville and West Point both can win their 12th state championship, which would be the most of any team in the state. And West Point, by the way, 8 straight state championships, which is just unfathomable. Now, they've lost, I think, 3 straight, so they're trying to win a state championship for the first time in a while. But, I like West Point when they get to this stage, so we'll see what happens there. 5A is, or 6A is Grenada and who was the other team? You guys can help me out with that one. But Grenada has done a great job in year one under their coach, Michael Fair, who was at Lafayette, former Mississippi State player, really good coach. He has a chance to win a state championship this year in year one. And then in 7A, I'll be at that game too. Starkville is taking on Oak Grove. Really excited about that game. Starkville's trying to repeat as state champions. And then, obviously, you got an Oak Grove team that has been really, really good this year as well. So that's going to be an exciting one. Starkville's going for a... All right, moving on. Now that we've gotten through the MHSAA games. Will Talkin Dawgs get a Hey Dad cameo? Yeah, we'll see one day. He's got his own show. He's doing a, thank you, Jackson. Wes Jones is who Grenada's playing. That should be a fun one. Hey Dad's got his own show. We don't need him on here, hogging the spotlight. Bryce Overby. I hope I said that correct. What timeline do you see coaching hires being made, and what positions do you see the biggest need at in the portal besides quarterback? I think by the end of the week, you should have a large portion of this staff complete. I really think that's going to start coming out pretty soon. As far as portal positions, offensive line is going to need it, and they've already offered a couple offensive linemen. Probably going to need a wide receiver or two. Probably going to need a running back. Probably going to need definitely going to need defensive linemen. Going to need a linebacker. I mean, I've been saying for weeks they're going to need 25 guys, I think. I mean, it's going to have to be a massive group. You're going to have to turn over this roster pretty quickly, I think. Random Yoda, is Tolu Smith still on track for January or sooner? I don't know the latest update on him, but, I think January is safe, and we'll see if he can come back sooner. It wouldn't shock me to see him back in December, maybe in the last part of non-conference or, very beginning of conference play too. Tom T, when is TNL going to do video? I don't know. We've talked about that before. That's definitely something on the docket. I have a lot of ideas. So, we'll continue to talk that through. Rodney Rhodes over-under on State's men's basketball regular season and SEC tournament wins, 23.5. I'll say under. It's been really tough to get to that number. Fred, I don't care. I don't care. My God, you're so annoying. If you don't like it, then just leave. You complain about so many things. OU has a logjam at running back and wide receiver. I don't know what their situation is. They do have several running backs, I think. John Kelsey, why does it seem that Jet Johnson doesn't get the respect he deserves? I have no clue. I mean, he's definitely not as talented as Buki, I think, and he's not one of the most talented linebackers out there. But the guy just makes plays. If he was a little more faster, he would be a first-round draft pick. That's kind of the realization with him, is he is a really good player, methodical player, makes the plays out there. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, we talk about Buki Watson a lot. He's the guy that gets a lot of the first team All SEC, second team All SEC honors. Jet has a lot of the same stats in a lot of ways, and he's been so good the last 2 or 3 years. He really should get more love than he does, but he just doesn't. I'm still so annoyed by Fred. Like, dude, just stop. Matthew Rollins punk feud. Yeah, I would love it. I would absolutely love it. Hayden Plunkett, think Trey Petty will come to State? I think they probably moved on from that. I think he's happy with Illinois. I also think that I just think Mississippi State is probably going to be looking to the portal for another quarterback. They already have Josh Flowers. There's really no reason to go after Trey Petty at this point. Jeff, yeah, Lebby and DeMarco are definitely tight. Random Yoda, I'm not from Mississippi. What's the deal with Wards? I have a couple of people that are upset at me because I I've been vehemently against showcasing awards to people that are coming out of state over other local eateries. But I like Ward's. It's a nice little local fast food chain, and they got, you can put like chili on your burger and stuff. I mean, it's pretty good. We had one of those when I was in junior college at EC. It was the only fast food restaurant we had in the entire little town of Decatur, and so I went there a lot, especially after long nights. You go there and have a burger. It's good. It's solid. Bryce, you said 25 possible portal guys. What are the odds you see them pulling this off and the players being the caliber needed? It's tough. It's definitely tough. It's very difficult to turn your roster over like that because you got to get all these guys playing on the same level at the same time, buying in, doing their role, and you have, guys from all different walks of life, from different places, and everybody that comes out of the portal pretty much wants to play. So that's going to be tough to get everybody on the same page. Colorado couldn't do that this year. They turned over their whole roster. Now, other teams have done a really good job going heavy into the portal, getting guys across the board on just about every position group that are out of the portal, playing at a high level. I think Ole Miss has done it really well so far. I don't know a whole lot of other teams that do it that heavily, so I can't really give you examples on that, but it's tough. I think that Mississippi State has nothing to lose there, though. I think that the roster that they currently have, I don't believe they can turn that into 7, 8 wins, 9 wins next year. I think they're going to have to go to the portal and turn over this roster because there's a lot of players that need to move on, quite frankly. There's a lot of changes you need here. So that it's going to be tough, but it's necessary. And I think Lebby is he understands that, and I think that's going to be his game plan. Big Mix, I've seen DJ Durkin floated out there as a potential DC. Are you hearing any other names beside him? We talked about him early on, so you can go back when we get done and listen to my thoughts on him. But as far as other names, not a ton right now. It's kind of quiet on that front. Durkin's been one of the most popular names mentioned, but I haven't really heard of a whole lot of other names as we speak. All right. Any other questions? All right, we'll get out of here. You guys enjoy the game tonight. We got a big one for Mississippi State at Georgia Tech, trying to stay undefeated, and we'll see if they're able to do that. I appreciate you guys stopping in. I apologize to people for smacking my lips. That's just part of it, I guess. But we'll get back to this next week. Hopefully next week we'll have some things to talk about, like coaching, hires. Basketball is going to be 100%. Everybody's going to be all in on that. So we'll see how that goes. But other than that, hope you guys have a great week, and we'll catch you down the road.